Well, I was working for the Catholic health system in Cincinnati, and I received a call from a previous colleague of mine, Sister Elizabeth Grannon, indicating that there was an opening here at Holy Cross Village, and she wondered whether I would be interested. And of course, I knew of the Brothers of Holy Cross, felt like it was something that I would like to do. I was approaching really the last part of my career, and I felt this would be the best use of my talents to come up here to South Bend. I knew Brother Tom Shaughnessy from previously having worked in South Bend, and I knew of his passion for this mission here at the village, and I thought we could work well together. And I certainly remember a lot of the advice, as Tom Shaughnessy would be in my office at 8:15 every morning, and we'd have about a half-hour conversation about what I needed to understand. As the famous phrase from Brother Tom Shaughnessy was, "What about this don't you understand?" Recently, Holy Cross Village was honored by a national award called the Ellie Pick Award, and it was given to us and received by Jack Mueller in Philadelphia at a national meeting. So I had the privilege of being there and watching Jack receive that award, feeling the pride that you get when you are singled out as one of the better and organizations doing senior living in the nation. So each time I think about that, I think about all of the work that is done by each and every staff person here and the strong sponsorship we get from the Holy Cross Brothers. So that was very pleasing, and I was very glad to have on my lapel that I was a part of the organization that earned that award. You know, it's almost daily, it maybe always daily, that I recognize the struggle that our residents are going through as things happen to them over their aging process and how they deal with that. They amaze me. I call them my warriors, and as I see them working out in the fitness room or working with the therapist and trying to do everything they can to stay independent, it amazes me and teaches me about how we need to deal with life. Well, I get to ask that question a lot. When your title is President and CEO, people generally don't know what you do. And there are days when I ask that question myself too, just what am I doing? But I think the most important contribution is vision and direction to the organization. The village is much more complicated of an organization than people may know. The sponsorship being religiously based, being regulated by the federal government, and in an increasingly competitive market, it's a rapidly changing challenge each and every day. Leading the village through that maze is a little like juggling, trying to stay informed to keep the village relevant and resourced, and providing the services needed as our present resident needs change and we attract new residents. Sometimes the needs of the new residents and those who have been here a while can be at odds with each other, so you kind of play referee in those situations, but it's certainly been a rewarding opportunity. I certainly have loved my years here. Yeah, that's easy for me. It's my wife, Connie. She has tolerated and supported me through my career. I think I counted up that we moved 11 times. And each time she was there to try to help and support. Of course, she gave birth to and raised our 3 children. Now we enjoy our 5 grandchildren. And together we grieved the loss of both of our parents. And she has tolerated the 2 a.m. calls in the morning when I have to get up and get dressed and go into whatever facility I'm working with to try and handle some kind of an emergency. I can't begin to express my appreciation for her and her support. We're going to celebrate our 50th anniversary coming up next April. And she has supported me through 38 years of senior service. Well, I've thought about this, and it struck me. I'd received that question, and I was trying to think what kind of body of water would represent what I do on a daily basis. And when we went on the Alzheimer's walk, we walked down the East Race, and as I was looking at that water coming down there and the obstacles in the water and how the people in their kayaks try to steer around those obstacles, it struck me that that's a lot like my job. I'm always trying in one moment to avoid this obstacle while I'm looking toward the future for another one and trying to figure out how to position to handle that next one. Lots of what I think gets us through is praying we don't capsize the boat. But with the assistance and guidance of the brothers and the Holy Cross Village Board and the uniquely talented staff, we've done a good job of avoiding those obstacles during my 5 years. Well, seriously, there was part of my life when I was a probation officer. I probably learned more during those 4 years than any other job I've ever had. Mostly the lesson was that folks with limited options available to them oftentimes are forced into choices that are not good. I went into that business with the philosophy that there was no such thing as a bad kid. After about a week, I realized I was probably wrong, but that doesn't mean that that person can't change. It was certainly an amazing learning experience for me. Well, during this past year, we went through some refinancing, and we entered into the world of high finance, and all of that language and instruments that are used as you retire one set of debt and open up a new set of debt. So on a daily basis, we were talking about swaps and EMA and a whole bunch of things that we don't normally deal with. So for about 6 months, I was trying to learn all that language. And as time goes on, thankfully, I haven't had to think about it. And it is legal. And it is something that will help us save about $500,000 a year. First, don't chew with your mouth open. And when you don't succeed at something, think about what you've learned. And when you've learned something out of your failure, you've turned it into a success. Well, lots of memories. I really love that part of my life. And I remember one time during a practice, I was watching one of our very talented running backs, and we had called a play, and so he got the ball and he went to where he was supposed to go, but that hole wasn't open, so he kind of did a spin and turned around and scored a touchdown. What that kind of told me was always have a plan B ready and be ready to execute it if your first time fails. I think always the current dog you have is your favorite, but I do have one that meant a lot to me, and her name was Stella. She was a mixed breed, a shelter dog that we adopted. First larger dog we had, and every time I would come home from work, she'd be waiting for me, and she'd want to play frisbee out in our backyard. So I'd go out there and I'd sit in a chair and throw the frisbee, and she'd bring it back, and she'd put her paws up on my chest and hand it back to me. And that was kind of like her giving me a hug when I came home from work. So I think of her often. Well, my life was really influenced by, of course, Martin Luther King and John Kennedy. John Kennedy more probably than anything else, being that he was the first Catholic president to be elected. I still have a very vivid vision of when I first heard of his assassination. But, you know, the mystique that he left a big impression on me. Another person, you won't know the name, is Mike Walsh, though. He was an older student, a senior, when I was a freshman in high school. And he was the quarterback of the football team. So he was like big man on campus. And I was just me. And I walked in that first day of school, and he walked up to me and kind of put his arm around me and said, "Let me help you through this first year." I'll never forget that, and I've always tried to pass that on. I think I have three. One is learn how to deal with constant change. Just about the time that you think you know how to do something, the rules change or the world changes. And part of your success is going to be based on your ability to change. Then always strive to improve the present. Don't be satisfied with what there is. Look for new and better ways to do things. And then last, in your profession, pass it on. Help someone else to be able to do the work that you do. That's a long time. And if you think back before cell phones and all of the 24-hour responsibilities we have, it's definitely technology. You know, the amount of information that's available today is phenomenal. The real key is to learn what about that information is important, and then how do you use it. Well, I think it's hospitality. I think the village community lives that core value in each encounter they have each and every day. Watching how the residents extend themselves to other and genuinely care for other is an amazing sight. I think the brothers can be proud of their value is being lived at the village campus. It's present here in a way that I've not seen anywhere else in my career. Well, I think first of all, save for retirement. Retirement's upon me, and I did some, but not as much as I could have. Spend as much time as you can with your family, and then never forget those who've helped you along the way. Jackie was the person who had the telephone number that I have on my cell phone, and I got this cell phone 5 years ago. I still get messages for Jackie. I know when Jackie's daughter hasn't shown up for school at Clay High School. I know when she's applied for a payday loan. I know who she owes money to. I have no idea who she is, but I know a lot about her. I think my advice to her was, please tell people that you don't have that number anymore.